Hey everybody, and welcome to another Project Zomboid Mapping 101. Now in the last video we had our world added to the actual vanilla map and we were able to successfully run around in it and well, actually play the game. Now our map looks great as it is, but it is a bit barren. We could add some more stuff, like what we're going to do in this video. We're going to add some buildings. Now, I have some other videos in regards to the building editor, but to keep this tutorial series streamlined, I am gonna take a little bit of a different approach, but I'm gonna explain the same stuff. So if you have the other stuff, if you watch the other stuff, you don't necessarily have to watch this, but you may want to stick around. Maybe you'll learn something new, and it'll be fun, and maybe you can play along and build along as we go on. Now to get to the building editor, you want to open up the tile editor. And in the tile editor, you want to go up to tools and then open up the building editor from there. I have already done that, so I can just open it from down below. And you'll be faced with a screen that looks a little bit like this. Now you will most likely not have any recent buildings, and your list on the side will most likely not include a ton of buildings in there. Now no worries there, that's because I've been doing this for how long? Maybe 2 years, I guess. Been working on stuff for a long time. But to get started, you may already have guessed it, you want to click on the new building button. Now you're faced with three options. The first one is the template option. This just gives you a preset of how your building is going to look, what kind of rooms will be in your building. Now all of this can be changed later on, so it doesn't really matter. I have changed Old Suburban and I probably have a lot more stuff than you do. Don't worry about that, you can add stuff as you go to make your life a lot easier. For now it doesn't really matter, we're just going to select a random one. I'm going to go with Suburban 1 and that will work just fine. Now for the building size, the default is 20 by 20 tiles, that's 20 by 20 meters. That should be big enough for most of the stuff that you're going to make. You can make this bigger, you can make this smaller, but all of the stuff that you see here can be changed later on. So if you start out too small and want to make a bigger building later on, you want to change the size, don't have to start over again. Don't stress about that. You can just start building and expand from where you are. I'm going to press OK and it will take me to this screen. You can see that I have a grid and I have a cursor with a red square beneath it. Now I can zoom in holding the control button and using the scroll wheel to zoom in. And if I let go of control and just press the scroll button, I can pan the camera to go left, right, up and down. Now there's no rotating in the editor because this is a tile editor with 2D images. There technically is not a backside of the building, so there's no way to rotate around it. Now for this very first building video in this series, we are going to make a very simple building. And to do that, we are going to use the draw room tool. That's the first tool that is selected. And I can left click and hold the left mouse button to drag out. You can see the red square growing as we go, and I'm going to make a simple shed. That's the simplest building I can think of for this video, and I'm going to make my shed 3 by 3 tiles. There we go. If I draw more, it will make additional spaces and it will connect to the additional room that we made. Of course I can reverse what I'm doing with using Ctrl Z or Z, and if I hold Control and drag, you can see that the color changes of the tile beneath my cursor, and I can take away the stuff that I've drawn. Now the stuff that I'm actually drawing, the type of room that I'm drawing, is defined in the drop down menu right here. So right now I am drawing a living room, and if I click on the drop down, I have a couple other options. Now these options have been set by the preset, and this may be a little bit different from you, but don't worry, we're gonna go into this in a second and change it up. First off, we're going to draw a different room just to show you how that works. I can just select a different one and draw that adjacent to the one before. And as you may see, it draws a room, but there is a wall between the two room types. That's because every room type is a standalone room and there will always be walls in between them unless you take those walls out later on. And we're not going to do that in this video because we're going to keep it simple. We're just going to make a shed. I'm going to press Ctrl Z to get rid of the other stuff, and we have a nice room here. I can right click on this room and it will change the drop down to that room that I'm selecting. So if I draw the dining room over there, I can change back and forth. As you see, That may be useful if you're doing bigger rooms or bigger buildings. But for now, we're going to go with this one. Now, we don't want our living room or our shed to be a living room type room. So we are going to go to this little button up here. This is the edit rooms button, and it takes us to this little menu. Now in here I can change any of these rooms, or I can add a new one. Now the settings that you can change are the name. This is the name for the editor only. This is only something that you will see, and it is what is displayed in the drop down menu and over here. Now you can call your rooms whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. This is just for you. Now the internal name, however, is very important. This is what defines what gets to spawn in the room. Now there's a whole list of stuff that you can use. I will provide a link for you in the description. Stick to that list, or you really have to put in a lot of work to make your own stuff, but that's not as easy as making a regular building, and that's not something we will cover for a while in this series. So just stick to the original stuff, and there's plenty of stuff to pick from. So don't worry about it. I'm gonna go with shed. I know that shed is a room definition that I can use for this, so I'm gonna go with that one. I'm just gonna change the living room to shed. I could have made a new room by hitting the plus icon, or I could have duplicated this one, but in this case I'm not gonna use a living room, so I'm just changing this one up to the shed. Now for the internal wall, I'm gonna change it up and pick something else. I really like this industry one to make a bit more well put together shed instead of one that's, falling apart. And for the trim, I'm not going to use anything. A trim is like a decorative piece that gets put on the side. In the shed, I'm not going to use that, so it'll be fine. I'm going to hit cancel on that one. Now for the floor, we can use, now let's go for a bit more of a concrete one, or tile one. I like that one. You can, by the way, you can hit choose, or you can double click it to open up the tile picker and then just pick whatever tile you want. And for the grime, I like adding grime to my buildings. It makes it feel more complete, and in the end we are playing a zombie apocalypse, so it gives a bit more of a good immersive feeling when you're playing the game. Now to apply these settings, I'm going to hit OK, and as you can see, our room has already updated and it's now called shed. Now I could have made a different room type, but like I said, I'm not going to use the living room type, and this will be just fine. Now we are going to skip over the draw wall tool for now, because we're not going to use that in this video. I will cover that in the next one, and we're going to go to the place door tool. And this one is quite self-explanatory, because you're going to place a door with this one. And for the door you have two options. Now up here between these two lines there are the doors and the door frames options. If you click on these, you get to select a door frame for your building. I may have a couple more options than you do at this point. Again, don't worry about it. I'm gonna go with a dark wooden color. I kind of like that one. And for the door itself, I'm gonna use this one, the basic white wall or white door with a little window in it. And I'm gonna put it on the left side. I'm gonna go to my map real quick. I kind of imagine this shed to being somewhere there, right next to a house. So if you go out of your house, it's quite convenient if you get to go into your shed instead of having to walk around it. Now you can click your door on a wall, and it will create a hole for you, so you can actually get through the door. If you want to get rid of the door, you can just right click it and get rid of it. It's very simple, very straightforward. Now for the next tool, we are going to use a place window tool, and we're going to place a window on the side. Now maybe I don't want to use this window, and again we can change that. In the menu on the side between the two lines there are windows. I'm going to go for this little, now let's go for the white one to match with the door, or go with black for contrast. Let's go with the black one for now. Now as you can see, there are curtains and shutters. Like the door frames apply to the doors, the curtains and shutters apply to the windows. So if I select any curtains, let's go for this one to make it very obvious that it's working. We now have a curtain, and we can choose the open or closed state for this. Doesn't really matter. Just depends on what you want to do with it. The same goes for the shutters. We can select an option and put that down, but for a shed I am not going to add any shutters, because I think that's a bit odd. I've never seen shutters on a shed. Maybe that's just me, but feel free to do whatever you want, of course. And I'm going to place that down there. I'm going to hit Ctrl Z, because I kind of want my curtain to be open in this case, and put it down there. I'm quite happy with this, but we need some stuff on the inside as well. And to do so, we want to use the place objects tool, the place furniture tool right here. But by default, you cannot click on it. That's because there's no furniture selected, and that's just how the editor works. And then if you don't have anything selected, you cannot use it. Now, all the furniture is below this second line. That includes the stuff that's called fixtures, floors, furniture, location, whatever. All this stuff is categorized as furniture. Now I have chairs selected, which is kind of good because I like a chair. I'm just going to scroll down and select a chair. Now the moment I select a chair, this button will unlock and it will allow me to actually click on it, and from there on actually place furniture. I'm going to click on this chair, and now this button is clickable. So I still have the window selected at this point. I'm going to click on this button. Now I can place furniture. Now most of the furniture has options for west, north, east and south, and it will snap automatically to walls based on the facing of the wall. Now if you want to override that, you can left click, hold the mouse button and just drag around to change the orientation of the object. In this case, I'd like my chair to be kind of in the middle of the room, add a little desk there, and then maybe a shelf on the side, not making it too difficult for this first build. I'm going to go to tables high and select a nice table. Maybe go with this one. I think that works for a shed. And then in store or in furniture shelving, there is this nice shelf. I'm going to put that to the side. Now my stuff may be organized a little bit different from yours, but it should be in shelving. Just scroll down a bit and it should be somewhere around there. I'm quite happy with this. The only thing that's missing is a light switch for actually there to be light in the room, and then a roof. Now lighting in this game is very simple. As long as a room has a light switch, which is in lighting indoors, it will have lights. So if you in-game flick on the switch, this room will just have lights hanging from the ceiling. Nothing, you cannot see the light source, that's not a visible option, but you can just add a light switch and it will light up the room, or darken it. Of course, there's always also options to actually add visible light sources, but in general a light switch just does the trick, and that's basically the way to go for most of the stuff. Now let's add a lamp on the outside as well. This is a fancy shed. Maybe not that fancy. Do we have something? And I'm quite happy with that. Now outside light sources generally just work until the power goes off in game. So you don't have to put a light switch for that one. It just works, and then in game you can turn it off or on and it will automatically go on if there's electricity and it's dark outside. Now this looks pretty good. I'm gonna press nothing because I still have to make a room above, or a floor above. Now to add a roof or another floor to your building, you want to go to floors and then click on the plus icon. You can also duplicate an entire floor, but we're not going to do that at this point. We're just going to add a new floor and add a little roof on top. Now the simplest roof that you can make is in this place roofs tool. In the drop down there's a flat top. Now if you drag this out by default, it will create a, well, transparent square. That's because nothing is selected and it's trying to draw a roof, but there's no roof tile selected for it to actually draw. I'm going to right click this to get rid of it, scroll back up, and then go to rooftops. In rooftops you have a bunch of selections. I'm just going to go with the first one and draw that over my little roof. I think that looks a little bit bland. I'm going to select something else. I made up, or I changed my mind. I'm going to go for this green one. And that looks pretty nice. Now I'm going to change the size of my canvas here to not be ginormous and actually kind of fit the building, and there's two ways to do that. In building you can resize the building, and then you can manually change how many tiles there are. This is also a good way to make it bigger if you decide you want to make a bigger building than you originally started with. The other option is crop to minimum, which just scales the entire thing down to exactly what you need, and that is the easiest way to shrink it. I'm going to hit Ctrl S and just save it out in my tutorials folder, and I'm going to call it shed. I already recorded this once and it was a total failure, so I'm going to do it again. I'm going to replace this one. go to the world editor, and then navigate to that same folder. And just drag in my shed into the world. If you press H, both in the building editor and in the world editor, by the way, you will highlight the current floor. So you will hide all the other layers. You will highlight the current floor. Yeah, it made a lot of sense, I know. But that's kind of it. That's how you make a basic shed. It's very simple, it's very straightforward, and that's about it. In the next video we will do a little bit more of a difficult building, and then we will kind of, you know, go up the ramp as we go on, and then at the end we will play in our map and see the buildings in person. Now, as always, a quick shout out to the people that support me on Patreon. Thank you very much, I really appreciate it. If you like content like this, consider liking and subscribing to my channel. I hope you guys have a very, very nice day.